sorry, kiddo, I really am. You have a good soul. And I hate giving good people bad news.
He's Tony, I'm Mike, and we're here to review 1981 science fiction thriller, Looker.
I want it.
You probably think I'm beautiful, Dr. Roberts, but I'm not. I do television commercials. They want a certain look.
You don't know what's going on. This is more than commercials. They're killing all the girls that are perfect.
Hi, I'm Cindy. I'm the perfect female type.
I did surgery on several girls a few months back. There have been some suicides.
What have you got me mixed up in?
If looks could kill, Looker.
Starring Albert Finney.
Yes.
And Susan Day.
Yes.
And James Coburn.
One of your favorites.
And written and directed by Michael Crichton.
Yep.
And then it also had, hang on one second.
It's got the amazing mustache henchman, Tim Rossovich, who's Noodles in Nice Dreams.
Actually, Dorian Harewood was the name I was looking for, who plays the police detective in this one, who's investigating, which you'll recognize him as 8-Ball from Full Metal Jacket. So, and then just a plethora of hot women. Everything from Vanna White to Terry Wells, the Playboy Playmate, and multiple others. Michael Crichton was all like, look, I didn't pick those ladies out. That was the producer. Sure it was. You want to walk us through the plot?
Yeah. So we have Dr. Larry Roberts, who's a famous plastic surgeon, and he's working on these already beautiful women, and they're asking for these like absurd changes.
My nose is 0.2 millimeters too narrow, and my cheekbones are 0.4 millimeters too high, and I have a mole here on my ribs, so I need plastic surgery.
Most minute shit, and he's like, why are you doing this stuff? I mean, nobody will ever notice this. And they say, well, I gotta be perfect. We gotta be perfect for these ads.
It's for work. I do television commercials. They want a certain look.
These changes are tiny, Lisa. Nobody would notice the difference.
It's because this company that they're all working for is doing this new thing where they're scanning these models and then, unbeknownst to them, using them to replace them in these things, in their commercials and stuff like that. So after she gets the surgery, you hear in the news that this one model dies.
Yeah.
And then another model they worked on died.
Change your back? What's wrong?
Because I'm too perfect. Because they're gonna kill me, that's why.
Well, who is?
They're killing all the girls that are perfect.
And from there, shenanigans ensue.
This movie is simultaneously super smart and super dumb.
Yes.
In equal parts. It is prescient. It saw so many trends coming. This was before computers were mainstream, and yet it was one of the earliest uses of 3D shaded graphics in the actual movie for the effects, because they're showing the scanning of the body. But they also, before face tuning and before social media and before the algorithm, which is specifically mentioned in this, that well, she's got to match our algorithm. Our algorithm says our commercial is this, and all of this is for visual perfection of getting the maximum return on investment dollars, so that your commercial, rather than staring at the hot model, you're looking at the actual product and basically being dialed in to have product sold to you.
The spot shows your point of visual fixation. You were looking at the body of the model and not at the product. But that's exactly what we don't want. At $1 million a minute, we want you to be looking at what we're selling.
And not just product, but politics as well, because that's covered in this one a little bit as well. Susan Day and Albert Finney are delightful in this film. The performances are exactly what they need to be, but then there's also some camp that gets mixed into this in a pretty heavy dose. So
there is what you may think is camp is probably a little bit different than what I think is camp. So tell me what you think the campy stuff is.
The parts that are a little bit campy is well, when he's getting hit with the light gun and he's getting the crap beat out of him.
That was bad.
Cindy!
New Andrea Collection nail color lasts 6% K now.
But I like the concept of the light gun because it's super fucking creepy.
Yeah.
In the early portions of this movie, the first murder you see is Terry Wells, right?
Yeah, Terry Wells.
Gorgeous, by the way. And there's like this. She sees like a flashlight, and then time has elapsed.
Yeah. She doesn't realize time's elapsed. Stuff's just moved.
Yeah.
Her dog is stuck in the closet. There's a case that's on the bed and like looks like it's for a giant handheld flashlight and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
And it happens a couple times in this one scene, and it's very unsettling because you're not sure what the hell is going on in this, and obviously the character doesn't either. And then at one point she gets wrapped up in her she gets so disoriented from this that she gets wrapped up in her curtains and falls out off over the edge.
Yes.
So I like the use of the gun. I think that was a super cool and unique way to kill and fuck with people.
Yes, yes. And that I think that concept in and of itself, using light as a weapon so that people have no sense of the passage of time, basically hypnotizing them.
Yes, exactly.
And when you see the first bit happen, that's expertly acted, it's expertly shot, it's expertly directed and edited. It's almost flawless. Then you get introduced to Albert Finney's character, the surgeon, and that whole bit, it's very matter of fact. He's very highbrow. He's got this girl, she's got all these measurements. They're down to the millimeter on all this stuff, and he's convinced to actually do them. He's weirded out by it, but he's convinced to do them by his partner who says, look, if you don't do it, someone less talented will do it.
Now, 3, 4,
3.
Must be some showbiz fad. You gonna do her?
I don't know.
If you don't, somebody less competent will.
And that's enough for him. He's professional enough to do that. But then we go through the entire operation. We actually get to see Terry Wells pre-op and post-op as far as all that goes. All that is great. Susan Day shows up, and I love that character introduction. There's no need, we don't need to like bump into each other or anything like that. She shows up in his office. She's one of the girls that he actually did one of these surgeries on, and she's just there for her post-surgical checkup to see how she's healing and all that. And she's chewing gum and talking about Tahiti, and all that is so good. It's so well handled. Susan Day is absolutely delightful in this film.
Do I match my measurements? Oh, forget it. I just hope this works.
Film. And then he invites her to go to a dinner. And it's really when Reston appears for the first time that you kind of start to get a little bit of the feel of the camp that's going to be going on in this one, because he's very corporate-y bad guy, but he wants to be the good guy.
Once underway. So you're looking for $7 million to build it. Well, under appropriate auspices, Reston Industries would be willing to fund $4 million.
What are appropriate auspices?
Well, it would have to be called the Reston Burns Unit. And we'd want something to say about all press announcements.
And then we actually get to see like the next step in the evolution of all this, where they take Susan Day's character and they digitally scan her in. Oh, look, AI actors. And hey, we just had a SAG strike about that not too terribly long ago, and Michael Crichton was writing about it in 1979. But
yeah, over 40 years beforehand.
The man had a crystal ball.
He did.
Yeah, he didn't necessarily, look too deep into it, but he saw trends and he saw where they were coming. And here's the other thing that's fascinating about this. Michael Crichton went to school to be a doctor. That's why the medical information in this film is so good. That's why the doctor-patient relationships feel so convincing. It's because his father was a doctor. His father was a journalist. I'm sorry. His father was a journalist, but he went to school to be a doctor. So he had a real world experience with dealing with that sort of stuff.
But not only that, it also nails like the media aspect of that thing like so well.
Yes.
Like everything about like the commercials and the presentation to your shareholders and stuff like that is like super convincing.
Television. It's the most powerful selling medium in the history of mankind. Who could have predicted that a free people would voluntarily spend 1/5 of their lives sitting in front of a box with pictures?
When they go through Susan Day getting scanned and being digitized into an actor, and they're going to pay her $200,000 a year, and they're going to use her however they want. They have the rights to all of that. But they also, there's a little bit of dialogue in there where we talk about the fact that they can age her up or age her down, and they can change the pitch and tone of her voice and all that. Again, completely relevant today.
So right there, that one little detail is the only thing that throws a monkey wrench in this whole movie.
What's
is
that?
the fact that, why are you killing these people? You always bought their license to their likeness.
Yeah.
So there's no need to kill them. Why are they killing them?
Actually, and I'm glad you brought that up. There is a scene that was deleted from the theatrical cut, which I'm assuming is what we both watched. But it was later put back in on the broadcast version of this. And basically, after they leave the lab, they get hit by mustachioed man with the light gun, and they wake up in there in Reston's house. And it's a dinner party that's still going on there. He explains that basically it's company policy to shred the documents. And those girls, once other companies could figure out what they were doing, the fact that they were making these women perfect by doing these minuscule adjustments to them, literally it was the data that was important to them. It was the fact that they took these measurements, they made these girls the ideal, the perfect women for this kind of advertising, and they didn't want that information falling into their competitors' hands. So therefore, they had them eliminated.
So that means that also, so you couldn't hire these women.
Exactly.
You use a looker device to put the girls in a trance, and then you kill them.
The surgical approach was a mistake. It always was. Clumsy. You see, the 3 dead girls and Cynthia here were walking examples of our computer research. They were the measurements, the database. And it's corporate policy to shred all old documents to keep it out of the hands of competition.
That was not translated in the version I watched.
No.
So, that was the big sticking point for me. It's like, well, this don't make any sense. You're paying these people. There's a contract. You have the rights to use their likeness. So, like, why are you killing these motherfuckers?
Well, the irony of it is that they like have this commercial that they're supposed to be shooting, and it's all driven by this algorithm, and what's the ideal shots, and the ideal jumping arc, and the ideal way she falls on the ground, and they're trying to shoot it with Susan Day over and over and over again, and it's not, this isn't right, that isn't right, the arc's not high enough, her jump isn't far enough, all this, it's just minuscule stuff.
Enough,
But then they decide, you know what, we're going to pay you, we're going to scan you in, then we're going to go ahead and generate the commercial electronically, digitally.
All that stuff tracks. All that part's great. There's nothing wrong with that.
And then they actually show some of the commercials with Susan Day in them that were generated by the computer system, and how they're carefully framed, and how she's cute but not too sexy, she's relatable, and she's really showing off the product. So all of that algorithm-driven advertising, 15 years before Windows 95 is mind-boggling how far ahead he jumped on that one.
Yeah, he did.
That is the part of this that is so smart. This was before the internet was even a thing.
This is 1981. You know what's going on in 1901 computers? Nothing!
War Games. War Games with Matthew Broderick didn't come out till a year later.
Shall we play a game?
Oh.
I think I missed him.
Yeah, weird, isn't it?
No, but I meant in real life.
Oh.
Yeah, there's there's personal computers, but it wasn't anything like fucking...
83.
Okay.
So 1983. So, but what I'm saying is the point I bring up, like when War Games came out, was because that was kind of a movie that kind of popularized geek culture and the use of computers and all that kind of stuff. So for Michael Crichton to be making all these leaps of logic, even before it was popular, it's still incredible to me.
Yeah.
And so much of this is so relevant right now. This is like one of those films that when it came out, it was panned. It has like a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes. This is a movie that deserves your attention now because every theme that's in this is done in a relatable way, but it's also something that is deep enough for you to actually get something out of it.
Not only that, all this shit is right around the corner.
Yeah.
Deepfakes are happening right now. It's going to be just a short amount of time before complete 3D people will be out there and completely indistinguishable from real actors.
They keep trying to do it. I mean, they tried to do it with Carrie Fisher in one of the Star Wars movies. They also tried to do it with
they did with
Peter
Schwarzenegger and the Terminator movies and that. But you see a lot of the deep fakes. Like there's a great deep fake of Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland doing the scene in Back to the Future in the school. That's perfect. You can't tell.
Yeah.
You cannot tell that that's not them actually acting. It's so good.
It's kind of strange.
It's fucking scary and terrifying is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the only other film that did this, which was probably about 7 or 8 years later, was The Running Man.
Yeah.
Where Jesse Body Ventura was digitally placed in and deep faked when he fought
to kill Arnold Schwarzenegger on
yeah.
camera because they didn't know where they had gone. They had disappeared from the grid during the course of the game. No, you're absolutely right. Now James Coburn hated this film. He was not a fan of it, and he said basically that the script that I got was much smarter than this, was much deeper than this, and they cut this for TV, and he didn't like it. And apparently the big complaint that he had was that they cut out the motivation as to why they were killing those models.
You gotta have that motivation, or else it doesn't stick the landing.
It really did screw up the landing on this one. And then the other thing is, about the 3/4 mark, this movie kind of starts to get draggy, especially when Albert Finney is running around and he's dressed as a security guard and he's going through the sets while they're having the rest and dinner with all the corporate people, downstairs. That's kind of like, the tension on that only holds up for so long. And the mustachioed man, shooting James Coburn's assistant, it's like that kind of seemed a little bit gratuitous and unnecessary, but I guess it was one way for Susan Day to get out of her handcuffs. I have notes.
But before you get to those, my big things with the movie that ruin it for me are, number one is the lack of motivation is a huge one. The second one is, I love the mustachio man and his bumblingness. He's a little too bumbling in this.
Yeah.
And then finally, Albert Finney, while he's fun and charming, he is way too old to play this semi-action-y type of hero in this, and as a love interest in the end. It doesn't work. I can't suspend my disbelief far enough for that to really work for me.
Ironically, one of the scenes that was cut, which is right after Reston tells them his motivation for killing the girls, they're trying to escape from his manor, and Susan Day says something along the lines of tell me you're super athletic. And he's like, no. and like, well, then how are we getting out of here? And it has them like trying to climb down the side of the building. And Albert Finney, is obviously in his, mid to late 40s on this one. And he's no, physically fit specimen.
Oh, God, he's got to be older
by
than
any
that.
stretch. Yeah.
He looks like he's in his late 50s, early 60s. I don't know how old he is, but he is not age appropriate for this movie.
You're not wrong, but I'm assuming that she's supposed to overlook that. He's intelligent, he's kind. And that's the other thing, too. This is what I do appreciate about his character. At no point is he flirty or creepy or weird.
No, he's always professional.
Yes, he's absolutely professional.
She's very flirty. and that.
Even more so, when he
Yeah.
takes her home and she's drunk,
Yeah.
she's like, where are you going?
Yeah.
Sleep well.
Where are you going? Larry?
It's cute. It's fun. It's funny.
Yeah.
But it doesn't ever come off as creepy. But
No.
the budget on this film was estimated between 8 and 12 million, which in 1980 money was a lot of money. It was not a cheap film by any stretch. It had a box office of 3.3 million. Yeah. Now
We have a habit of picking a lot of duds on this channel.
but we do. But you know what? That doesn't make this film any less watchable.
No.
It's amazingly watchable. Michael Crichton, who wrote and directed this, he got his kickoff in Hollywood with Westworld and the Andromeda Strain and Coma. So he had hit after hit after hit. He went on to do Sphere, Congo, Twister, Runaway with Gene Simmons and Tom Selleck.
Oh, that was him?
Yeah, that was him. He
Oh,
also
we need
did
to do that
Jurassic
one.
Park. I mean, literally, he was the guy that just hammered out original IP after original IP, and it was hit after hit. This was a huge hit on cable. It was all
I can see
over
that.
HBO and Cinemax.
I mean, you
and
got
all
some
those.
nice gratuitous. I say gratuitous, but it's not. It's actually tasteful news.
Yes. Medically,
Yes.
I was going to say, they do show the nudity. It's there, but it's done in such a clinical way that it doesn't strike you as titillating.
No.
It's just kind of one of those pre-op photos that they shoot of somebody before plastic surgery so that they can then compare the results afterwards.
Yeah. It serves the plot as opposed to spank material.
Exactly. This also predates The Wrath of Khan, which had the Genesis graphic that went on to that, and then it also predates Tron. So, I mean,
Yeah.
when we say that this kind of kicked off a whole generation of computer special effects, we're not kidding on that
Yeah.
one. But they hid the fact that while they did do 3D shading on it, they just showed it on a CRT screen so they could actually hide that it wasn't super high quality. But it's also the first full 3D CGI human body that was ever done. They also did her face and her hands and all that. And you'll see all this very plainly on screen. And the likeness of her
pretty
is
good.
actually pretty good. You can
Yeah.
tell it's Susan Day,
Yeah.
which is kind of striking. And then they faded that from the CG to what was a final render where they actually put the actress's face on there. Nothing seems off or weird. Everything lines up. It's pretty much like if you have a PC and you're playing a video game, you turn to the lowest quality settings into the highest quality settings. It's that exact amount of difference. And again, before the PC was a big player, even in special effects, let alone in the home computer market, anything like that. Thoughts? Anything?
So, I really wanted to enjoy this movie, and the it's very uneven. First half is great, and actually the second act is actually pretty good too. Really, it's the third act that lets me down because I do not buy Albert Finney in that action role. When Mustache Man is handing him his ass, I'll tell you, one punch from Mustache Man would knock that old motherfucker out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no getting around it, and yet he pummels them for a good couple minutes in this, and somehow Albert Finney manages to come out on top. That's some bullshit. That is not going to happen.
I will say this. I'm going to not fault that one to the way it was shot. I'm going to fault that one to the editing because that sequence goes on entirely too long.
Yes.
Number one. And number two, the fact that he realizes that he's not seeing the guy, but then he looks at the TV monitors and he sees where the guy is at and he's able to actually figure it out, which surprises the guy. That's smart.
Yeah.
That's actually really smart. But because that sequence goes on so long and because he takes so many hits ahead of time, I don't care who you are. If you're completely stunned and you get, smacked upside the head by the mustachioed guy who looks, he's he's doddering, he's clumsy, but he looks like he packs a hell of a wall.
Oh yeah. There could have been more horror aspects of it, or more thriller tension aspects of it. I would like to see more of the use of that Lycan against the other models too, and watch them go through some terror and shit.
Absolutely.
Because that's what really grabbed me at the beginning of this movie, was that opening shit with Terry Wells was so well done.
When Tina gets it in her apartment, and then you see her go off the balcony, that stunt, where they have the camera pointed straight down, and you see her hit the roof of the car, the windows blow out, and her body just folds in half. It looks so brutal. That stunt is spectacularly good.
Yeah, there's just a lot of missed opportunities here.
This needed one more fine-tuning rewrite.
Yeah.
They needed to go through it one more time. It's a solid concept. It's a smart idea.
Even in the editing, really just a few editing touches here and there would have helped as well. Putting the motivation back in, cutting back the action scenes would have helped tremendously.
Yeah, and James Coburn is a really great villain too. I was going to say he plays the bad guy but he's a slimy, likable bad guy in a way that like you buy it. He doesn't feel, when we did Hard Times, you said James Coburn felt a little bit miscast, like you could have slapped anybody in there. I don't know that anybody else could have pulled Reston off as kind of that rich guy that has all this power and all this money, but he just wants more, and he does it so convincingly.
He's still so for me in this one.
I enjoyed him. So.
He's perfectly fine. He's serviceable, but it wasn't like a make or break cast for me. And that's kind of the other thing too, is everybody in this cast is perfectly serviceable, but none of them really stand out or really elevate anything in particular.
I don't disagree with that. This film could have been had a different cast, and could have, again, one rewrite, one slight bit of casting, and you're good. It's hard to find women that are that attractive and can act.
I'm not placing the fault on them. Like Susan Day's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I have to get some new ones. Look at that.
They look good to me.
You've made me perfect.
The soundtrack for this movie is phenomenal. The theme song is spectacularly catchy. When you hear that shit, and you've probably heard it on a million, videos that it's borrowed it, but that theme song is spectacularly good. And then the techno soundtrack for this is very John Carpenter-esque, and I love it.
It is. But yeah, the whole, she's a looker.
She's got it made.
She's a looker. That's what they say. She's got it all. Yeah, she's got it made.
I would love to hear that redone in a modern, like a modern interpretation. I don't think that'd be a modern interpretation. To be honest with you, I just like to hear like an actual quality singer and band play that song, because that's kind of a bop. And there's a couple other songs with that same singer that are bops too, but it's just kind of, she's just.
I think her name's like Susan Sayed or something like that. I looked it up specifically for the review, but
she's like the actors in this movie. She's serviceable.
You're on the high wire, baby. You better keep your cool.
But okay, so you're torn. Would you recommend it?
Yes, and not in the way that it's such a great film, but just kind of the depreciation of Michael Crichton, and just the fact that he could pull this out of his ass 40 years, and here it is now, 40 years later, and all this stuff is like just right around the corner.
Yeah, and
I mean, literally right around the corner.
I'm sure in 1981 people were like, "Oh, where is all this coming from?" And now here we are in 2024, and it's like, wow, it's creepy how much you nailed all of that.
Is he still alive?
No. Michael Crichton passed away. If I'm not mistaken, I know he died of cancer, but I don't remember what. But it wasn't all that terribly long ago. Production assistant.
Yeah, but prescient is such a great word to describe him. Yeah.
He passed away in 2008.
Oh wow, that long ago.
He died of lymphoma. He did not make his cancer public. Until after he passed away.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean.
He was 66 years old.
Yeah. And seriously, there's never going to be anyone quite like him again. He was a force of nature for original concepts for his entire career. I mean, he started out with Westworld. with Yul Brynner, and that's was just remade not too terribly long ago. Not well, but it was remade. Watch the original movie; it's better. But he had so much right with where things were going. It's kind of insane.
Very much so, yeah.
So yeah, it's an absolute recommend for me. It's a very uneven movie. He's absolutely right about that. It is a very flawed movie, but that doesn't make it any less compelling. And
very compelling.
Yes, I bought it, and you can buy the Blu-ray right now for $12.99. So
that's everything I need to say.
That's all I got.
All right, we'll see you guys the next time.